There's a kind of wound that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with rage or tears or a dramatic ending. It arrives quietly, in the moment you start pulling back from someone you actually love. In the excuse you make not to text back. In the argument you start 3 days before they leave for a trip, as if some part of you needed to confirm that the distance was real before it was physical. It arrives the moment the relationship starts to feel too good, and something deep inside you says this is when it ends. Welcome back. I'm going to talk today about something I think most people in the community have felt, but very few have been able to name. We talk a lot about the fear of abandonment, the wound of being left, the way childhood loses echo into adult relationships. But today I want to talk about the other side of that coin. Because for every person who was left and is terrified of being left again, there's often the same person without realizing it has become very good at leaving first. Not dramatically, not cruelly, but systematically, piece by piece, distance by distance, until the relationship collapses and it feels like it was always going to. In the language of this channel, we call this the Archon of Abandonment. For those newer to this space, in Gnostic cosmology, an Archon is not simply a demon or a negative force. An Archon is a ruler, a keeper of a specific domain. And in the framework we use here, the Archon is a psychological and spiritual force that takes up residence inside a person, not necessarily to destroy them, but to govern them, to shape how they see the world, how they relate to others, and most importantly, what they believe they deserve. Every Archon tells a lie that feels like wisdom. The Archon of scorekeeping says, count carefully or you'll be taken advantage of. The one of control says, if you manage everything, nothing bad can happen. And the Archon of abandonment says, if you love them less now, losing them will hurt less later. That's the one we're unpacking today. And I want to stay up front. This is one of the harder Archons to identify, because the person it lives inside does not usually see themselves as someone who abandons others. They see themselves as someone who has been abandoned. And that's not wrong. In most cases, the wound came first. But the Archon took that wound and turned it into a survival strategy. Let's talk about where this comes from. When we were very young, and I mean very young, sometimes before we have language for it, we learn something about love. We learn whether it's reliable. Maybe a parent was emotionally unpredictable. Maybe they were present one day or distant and overwhelmed the next. Not malicious, just human. But to a child's nervous system, that inconsistency registers as love is something that disappears. Or maybe there was a loss that came without warning. A parent who left, a family that fractured, a person who was everything and then was gone. And the mind, which is brilliant and adaptive and just trying to protect you, it made a decision. And it said, I won't be caught off guard again. I'm not going to give everything to something that is going to disappear. I'm going to keep a part of myself back, just in case. This is not weakness. It's intelligence in the body of a child who needed to survive. The problem is that the strategy that protected you at 7 becomes the Archon that governs you at 34. And now you're in a relationship with someone who loves you, really loves you. And the closer they get, the louder that voice becomes. This is the moment it falls apart. They don't even really know you yet. If they knew you, like actually knew you, they would leave. So you might as well give them a reason. I want to name some of the ways that the Archon of Abandonment actually moves inside of a relationship. Because none of these look like leaving. They look like something else entirely. The first pattern is self-sabotage at the threshold. This is when things are going well, genuinely well, and you do something to destabilize it. You pick a fight, you go cold, you bring something up from 6 months ago, and then suddenly you need more space. It doesn't feel like fear, it feels like clarity. We have a real problem here, but the timing is always the same, right at the moment of deepening. The second pattern is the invisible test. You create conditions, usually unconsciously, designed to see if the other person will stay. And that test is often impossible to pass, because the Archon isn't really asking, will they stay? It's confirming, see, I know they wouldn't. If they fail the test, you have your proof. If they pass, the Archon raises the stakes. It makes the next test much, much harder. The third pattern is emotional rationing. This is very subtle. It's not dramatic withdrawal. It's just never being fully there, keeping one foot out, not saying the deeper thing. Loving at 70% because 100% feels like standing at the edge of something that could kill you. Your partner feels it. They can name it, but they feel a glass wall between you. The fourth pattern is the preemptive exit. The relationship isn't over, but you are already half left in your mind. You're already imagining a life without them, running the math on how you'd survive. Not because you want it to end, but because your nervous system needs to know there's a way out before it lets you fully arrive. None of these look like abandonment from the outside. They look like ambivalence, commitment issues, emotional unavailability. But underneath all of them is the same prayer. Please don't go. But I can't let you see that I'm terrified you will. Now let's bring in the astrological dimension, because this is where things get precise. The Archon of Abandonment tends to be the most active in charts with certain signatures. I want to name 3 of them, not to diagnose, but to illuminate. The first is a prominent Saturn in the 7th house, or Saturn aspecting Venus or the moon. Saturn governs fear, restriction, and places where we expect loss. When Saturn sits in the house of partnership or presses on the planet of love, the subconscious message is, relationships cost more than they give. These individuals often delay love, minimize it, or construct unconscious barriers against it, not from coldness, but from a deep Saturnine belief that joy must be earned and can be revoked. The second is Scorpio or Pluto, heavily influencing the Venus placement. Pluto rules death and transformation, the things that cannot be undone. When Pluto governs your relationship to love, intimacy carries a weight of total annihilation. Love is not just love, it is the thing that can unmake you. Scorpio Venuses and strong Pluto-Venus aspects often oscillate between total intensity and total withdrawal, because the depth they feel is terrifying even to themselves. The third is a wounded or unaspected moon, particularly in Capricorn, Aquarius, or intercepted in the chart. The moon governs emotional safety, our attachment patterns, the way we learn to receive nurturing as a child. A moon that is isolated, restricted, or in a sign that struggles to express need creates a person who learned very early to need less, to depend on less, to be less. And when they meet someone who wants to fully love them, they don't know how or what to do with that. These are not sentences, they're invitations. The chart doesn't trap you, it shows you the terrain. And once you can see the Archon's home inside of your architecture, you can begin to evict it. Here's what the Archon does not want you to know. The strategy of loving less to lose less was never, ever meant to work. It's never delivered what it promises, not once. Because not fully giving your love doesn't actually protect you from the pain if the relationship ends. It just means that later you regret not letting yourself fully experience something that mattered to you while you once had the chance. The loss still comes. It just arrives with a second wound attached. I never let myself have it while I could. Liberation from the Archon of Abandonment is not about becoming fearless. Let's get that clear. That's not the goal. The fear is real and the wound is real. Liberation is learning to act in the presence of fear instead of being governed by it. It's being able to say to your partner or to yourself, I'm pulling back right now, not because of you, but because something in me is terrified of how much I really want this. That sentence alone is a rupture in the Archon's contract, because the Archon survives on secrecy, on the fear being invisible, even to you. When you name it out loud, to yourself at first, and then to someone else, you break the first seal. You stop running the trial in private. You stop pretending for the ending. And maybe for the first time, you let the relationship be uncertain, real, something you fully entered, which is the only way it can actually become something that lasts. The Archon of Abandonment does not always look like someone who walks out the door. Sometimes it looks like someone who stays and slowly, carefully, and lovingly make sure there's nothing left worth staying for. If you recognize yourself in any of this, that recognition is not a condemnation. I want you to remember that. This is the beginning of the only thing that actually heals the wound. It's the decision made again and again in small moments to stay. If this resonated with you, I want to know. Comment the word first, and I will build part 2, where we go into specific chart signatures that indicate this wound. And more importantly, what transits look like when you're being invited to finally heal it. Share this with someone who needs the language for something they've been feeling for a long time. And I'll see you in the next one.